Hello friends and welcome back to my channel. My name is Caitlin from Florals.com and welcome back to the 2020 Creative Reset series where we are looking back at 2019 and setting ourselves up for success in 2020. So if you've not watched the other videos in this series, definitely check out the playlist link down below because they're all in there. You can catch up. They sort of go in order and we're working off things we've done in previous videos, as you can see here. So you'll definitely need to do those first, or at least have an idea of your goals and your wants and needs and your fears and hopes for 2020. So definitely check those out. I'll have the playlist link down below. But today we are evaluating where we are currently with our goals. Perhaps some of these are continuation goals from 2019 that you're doing in 2020, and also evaluating if we have everything we need to set ourselves up for success. So I'm going to be evaluating one goal in this video, but depending on your goals, some might not be project-based, some might be time-based, or might be quantity-based. So if you have those sort of goals, you'll have to attack them from a different angle, but today we're talking about project-based goal evaluation. So my project-based goal for 2020 is to finish my Disney 2016 album, which I have here. So if you have a project-based goal, the first thing to do is, have you started it or not? If you have started the process of starting that project, that means you probably have photos printed, or at least have your photos in a folder on your computer. And I mean, printing the photos is really the first step. I know some people like to plan out their albums before they print their photos. I do not do that, but definitely do your process for when you print your photos. I know some people like to crop them and edit them. All that kind of stuff needs to happen before you can really, start making the album, unless you're doing some sort of base page method where you just make a bunch of pages, print the photos later, and then just stick them in. But for my case, I actually already have all of my photos printed. So if you're past that step, great. If you're not, take some time, really evaluate what photos you want in your project. If it's a mini album, you need to know how many photos you can actually fit into that album. If it's a 12 by 12, you need to figure out how many layouts you'll be able to fit and what stories you really want to tell in that album. So since I'm doing a vacation album, what I essentially did was just print out a bunch of photos. Now this is a started layout or a started album, but that doesn't mean that things can't change and things can't switch around as I reevaluate this project. So I have my photos printed, great first step. Second step is if you have the vehicle to start. So do you have a scrapbook album and page protectors? Do you have your mini album? Do you have your traveler's notebook? You need to figure out what vehicle you want these stories to be told in and have that ready to go. So I did 12 by 12 layouts. I also mix in smaller layouts, so I have a multitude of page protectors. I have 12 by 12 ones in here, and I also have pocket page ones in here, and I also have some smaller ones in here. So I'm really all set on the front of buying supplies. You can see that this album's actually quite beat up. You can see some of the dents and craters here because I've had this album for so long, because I've been working on this album for so long. I don't mind that it's been banged up. We've moved a few times. This album's come with me to college, and it's also gone home with me to New York, and it's been in Maryland, and it's been in quite a few places. Okay, I think it's been in 5 places probably, which is a lot for one album in a short period of time, but it's okay that it's beat up. It still works, it still has the rings, it still functions. So my vehicle is all set. When you're evaluating your project and what you want to do with it, you might already have a vision, you might not have a vision. If you have a vision, follow it. I think that's a great place to start, because if you want something, you should just go for it. Anything's achievable, and I promise you guys can do it. Even if it's your first traveler's notebook, or even if it's your first chipboard mini album, you can pull it off. It could be 8.5 by 11. Just evaluate the stories you want to tell. Do they need to be in a big album? Do they need to be in a small album? Evaluate your storage. Do you already have a lot of 12 by 12 albums? Do you need to rethink your process for doing travel and start thinking about putting them in 8.5 by 11? Or doing pocket pages to minimize the number of pages that fit into an album and really put in a lot of vacations in one album versus each vacation getting its own album. These are the kind of things you want to think about, and again, all of these are very personal decisions depending on your desires and your wants and needs in terms of storage and accessibility and ease, because I know some people find these albums are very bulky, like it doesn't even fit in frame. Even if I wanted it to, I don't think it would, because it's huge. I mean, these albums are taller than 12 inches, and I think they're 13 or 14 wide once you get the binding in there and all that stuff, so they're large albums. I understand why people don't want these a lot of the time, but once you have that figured out, then we can dive into the things that we really need to talk about. So let's say your photos are printed. You already have them cropped, edited, they sent them out, you started printing them at home, whatever you want to do. I personally print mine externally, so they all come in at once, so I can jump around as I please to scrapbook the stories. But if you're a chronological scrapper, when you're doing your travel layouts, you might start printing them at home one at a time. Highly recommend getting one of those project checklist sheets. I know there's a couple Etsy sellers that sell them. I've never used one. You could also make one in Excel. Essentially, you'd put down each of your stories in one column, and then the photos you want with it, if it's 3 photos, 4 photos, whatever, to help plan out your album. And then you put an X next to it if you've printed them or not. That way you can keep track and not reprint photos that you might not need to, or capturing, stories that you might not need to that you might already have. So let's say your photos are printed, you have your album and your album supplies ready. So page protectors, or a traveler's notebook case, whatever you need. Then we need to evaluate the scrapbooking products themselves. Do you have everything you need to finish this album? A lot of us might say yes, but you really need to think about how much adhesive will this take? How much time will this take? We have to think about all sorts of things in here. So as time goes on, you might find yourself wanting to do other things. So another thing I forgot to mention was that with your photos and with vacation albums in general, you will have a ton of ephemera. You think, oh, this would be so cute on the scrapbook page. Then you take it home and then it ends up in a giant file folder like this, like I have. There's just a lot of them here. There's a lot of little bits and pieces and goodies. If you're like me, you save everything, which is a hoarding problem and a scrapbooking problem, because not all your ephemera will fit in your scrapbooks as much as we want it to. We usually neglect our ephemera because it's hard to maintain, it's hard to keep track of, it's hard to fit and hard to incorporate into our pretty pages. So in order for me to successfully complete this album, what I did was broke up my photos by day and put them in a file folder according to it. Now, as you can see, I did not bother relabeling. This one says veggies. I don't need to relabel it. I know they're in order. So for example, this one has photos of Magic Kingdom. So that's a Magic Kingdom day. Luckily, we only did one item per day, so not too crazy in terms of the file folders here. This one here is Universal Islands of Adventure, and in this one as well, I have the pamphlets for the park. That's an oldie. It's crazy how much they change. And then I have everything else that came in it. So I have receipts, which honestly you don't need, but we do have. I bought a $6 butterbeer. Good to know. I think that was the first time we had butterbeer, to be honest. This one is Hollywood Studios. So we have pictures there of the Great Movie Ride, one of my favorites. It's now since gone, but that's okay. We'll get a new ride. I think it's in 2020 that new ride opens up. Then we also have things like the ride home. I gave that its own day because I think travel albums in particular have a completion, have a full circle sort of feeling when you have that end photo. So all those things are in there. Then in the back, I have unidentified pieces. So some things obviously don't need to go on a specific page. So for example, this was a Disney cruise album. So we have these, which is an activity you can do on the boat, but we did this several different days. So this is something I want to include, but it doesn't necessarily have a day with it because it might have spanned a couple of pieces. So it just goes in the back. It doesn't have a day with it. Same with all of our trivia cards. We have just a bunch of these that don't have a specific day because it's not like I took pictures at trivia. We just had fun doing it. So I think that would be fun to put in. We have all of the itineraries. I keep all the extra ones. I already have a couple of these in there since this is a started album, but some of the itineraries I kept because I think it'd be fun just to look back on. So these kind of ephemera pieces that don't have significant meaning right now might bring significant meaning down the road. So I'm going to end up putting these in the back of the album if I don't put them on a specific day. So this one's January 14th, so this is Thursday. That might go in that page, but I might have already done that page. To be honest, I have no idea because I haven't touched this album in so long. So like I said, I like keeping my photos and my ephemera together in some sort of package like this. I've done photo envelopes before if I have less ephemera, like I did my Pittsburgh album. And I'll have that video linked down below where I go over that because I think it's very helpful to see how I did it. I just sorted them by day. But I'll have that video linked down below for my Pittsburgh album, which is a mini album, less photos. This one I did not film because I think it's a very mishmash place and way to store things, but I just shared it with you there if you are interested. So photos and ephemera go together in my opinion. They stay in that kind of storage. That way I see them every time I go to pick out a photo to scrapbook, and that way I can actually try to implement them on the pages that they matter for. And that way my scrapbook's a little bit more scrapbooky, like olden time scrapbooky, you know, hodgepodgey, collage-like. If I have those ticket stubs and I have those receipts and those pamphlets, and those kind of things really make a scrapbook personable and really helps bring back those memories quickly. So ephemera, photos, album, and now we move on to supplies like I originally wanted. So for supplies, once you have the vehicle you want for your stories, you'll know if you need 12 by 12 paper. You'll know if you need different size pocket pages. You'll know that you need pocket page cards perhaps. So you know what you need. You currently know the theme because you know what stories you want to tell. Luckily for me, mine was Disney theme. So I have some photos that are some layouts that are Disney-fied and some that aren't. This one was just in Florida before we got on the cruise. Then we got on the cruise. I have inserts already. So some of this stuff's done. Oh, these were 2 pages. There's actually yellowing happening on this page protector. So this stuff is done. We have some animation. We have pictures of the ship. I have some journaling already done. I have missing layouts that I need to go find, which I just saw this one. I wish I know where this is, but I don't at the same time. I have inserts. Some of these have process videos even because I used to work on this a bit more. I have that Designing Disney series, which I definitely want to bring back in 2020 because I am finishing this album in 2020 no matter what. No matter what, guys. I'm going to do it, even if I don't film it. So as you can tell, some are Disney-fied. We have a little Disney crystal right there, just a big Disney photo. Some are not Disney-fied. This one's Disney-fied. As you can see, it just kind of happens as it happens. And I started to make it easier on myself. Back in earlier 2019, I started to plan my pages. So here's an example. I put the photos that I wanted and ephemera that I wanted and perhaps papers and I think there's some embellishments in here somewhere, and put them in a page protector. These all go on the same page or on this page. So here's one, title recommended, the pocket pages are in, the photos are in the pockets. So this is our stingrays. They're all here waiting to be loved and waiting to be put in. So I started doing this so that I could pull out a page, scrapbook it, and put it back. I could just put it right back. And that way they were ready to go. And a lovely lady named Leah, I believe, was the first person I saw do this. She doesn't do YouTube videos anymore, I believe. And I just started doing it, and it had me on a roll for a little bit, but then again, I got stuck on other things. Particularly things like YouTube challenges and YouTube collabs that I do tend to get in the way of specific projects. Right now I'm trying to force myself to find things that I could use, like look at the projects in a different light so that I can do Disney projects specifically for all the kits that I'll be doing, and you know, really trying to focus more on this while including my other collabs that I do because I think it'll be more worthwhile for me. But I'm going to pull out one of the examples here. So if you have your project started, consider doing something like this where you start laying out the rest of your pages together. So this one I knew I wanted 8.5 by 11. Yes, it's still in a 12 by 12 piece, but I have the other page ready to go with the ephemera in there. Okay, so this is one that I haven't done yet because I don't have the photo yet. So I made a spot for it in my album despite not having the 8 by 10 printed yet. It's ready to go. It's got cork, it's got a cardstock, it's got a background piece. Actually, I think there's 2 papers. Nope, there's only one. That's okay. We have wood veneer, we have a washi tape reminder, we have a flare, we have chipboard. Again, it's there, it's ready. I made basically page kits for my album, and I put them in the album. As long as you're not putting too much in there, because I know a lot of people like a lot of options. I'm usually one of those people. As long as you don't put in too many options, you can do that. If you want to add in, you know, the page kit factor. And this will really help you evaluate if you have what you need. So this will help you evaluate if you have enough of X, Y, or Z. But if you're not a person who plans out too in advance like this is a little bit crazy. Again, I did this all in one day, so I just went for it. What you can do instead is you'll know how many photos you have printed or are about to print because you know how big the trip was. If you know there's X amount of days, you can expect X amount of stories from each day. So if you don't have an album started, perhaps where you should start while you're waiting for your photos to arrive or to be printed is to start a kit. So I've had this kit for a while now. Probably since I started, I probably made a kit, and this includes almost everything that is nautical related, Disney related that's in my stash. I have Disney alphabets, I have vacation stickers, I have princess stickers, 3D stickers, little drink umbrellas. I've used these several times now. I have washi stickers, I have stamps, I have I have everything here, which I think I've shared this kit before. I have these weird Disney stickers we got in the mail once. I don't know if we actually met any of these characters, to be honest. I'm trying to remember. I don't think we met Elsa this trip. I don't think we met anybody else. We have these little movie stickers, the ephemera packs, you know, the classic Disney ones. I have tropical things. I have just travel-y things. This is pretty much all the Disney stuff I own is in this exact kit here. This is pretty much it. And then I have the papers back here. I actually have another, there's so much cat here, I apologize. You can tell it's been collecting dust. But I have chipboard, I have stickers, I have more stickers on this side and more stamps. It's all here. I tried to make it easy on myself, but I think, in fact, I made it harder on myself because I gave myself so many options. As you can see here, it's just overwhelming to begin with. So, depending on what you want to do and while you're evaluating your project that you want to do, make sure that you don't overwhelm yourself, because obviously anything can go on any page because you don't know what you're going to want to feel like scrapbooking at that time. But if your project has a theme, if it doesn't have a theme, maybe you should decide a theme. You should pick out a collection to use or a color scheme, a definitive color scheme, and just have a representation of that ready to go for your project, whether it be a couple washi tape colors you really like or one pattern paper you want to build it around because that'll be the title page perhaps. Whatever you do, you know your style, you know your likes and your dislikes. Don't include 5 stamp sets if you know that's just going to make you sad to work on it because you're not using the stamp sets. Make sure it's something that's doable. Make sure it's not overwhelming. I could have put everything I owned in this, which technically I practically did. This is all the Disney stuff. This is all the nautical, beachy, cruise themed stuff because this was a cruise / Disney trip. The Universal stuff is in here as well. I have a couple wizarding things. I even have a little bit more than this. I'm just doing this little example here. But I have chipboard. I have more 3-dimensional pieces. I have like 3D stickers. I have regular stickers. I have more flair. I have everything under the sun. And I think that might have deterred me. But I definitely like the page kit option more that I've been doing in my album versus the large kit, which I'd been doing originally. So make sure you think about these things while you're working. This thing's hard to wrestle. But I pretty much keep everything in here along with all the cat hair and the dust and, you know, everything else that could possibly go with it. We have clips, we have more stickers. It's all here. It's all overwhelming, but if you know me, I like a lot of choices. I think it helps me think outside the box more. But if that's not your case, if that's not how you function, don't do that to yourself. Just because I do it doesn't mean you have to do it. And just because I suggest it doesn't mean it's be all and all. It's what you can do and what you desire and what you wish for your album. Because you know your album better than anyone. You know that you won't use any metal. You know that you don't want much dimension. Just pick out some stickers. Pick out some cardstock die cuts. Not too much, just a little to get you started. You can always add more, but taking away stuff is actually a lot harder because you have to then put it away, and usually what happens is you'll put it in a pile to put away and then it ends up right back on your desk into this collection or this kit that you're working on. So if you don't have a specific theme, say you're working on a album for your niece that's graduating, like I want to do. I want to create an album for my niece that's graduating. But I know she won't want just like a graduation themed album. She'll want all of her photos to fit in there from her senior year, for example. So what I can do is, one, she's a teenager. Teenagers love bright colors. They love pastel colors. Specifically her, I know her style specifically is more the brighter tones. So I could start pulling in those. I'll pull in the like cool kid stuff that I have, you know, things that speak to that age more so than, you know, pastel baby colors that I know she's personally not into. And then at the end I can go the graduation route. And just because you're working on a project doesn't mean you need a kit, doesn't mean you need page kits, it doesn't mean you need anything. Maybe it's just the fact that you need to have the photos on your desk and the album right next to it, whether it's a mini album or a big album, just so it's there to remind you that you need to be working on it. I know some people that do, like, I should get X amount of layouts done in this album per week. And again, some layouts are easier to create than others. I find 6x8 albums faster to create because they're smaller size. I put in a page or a pocket card for journaling, and I don't need a journal on it because I'm giving the album away. So it's just slip in the picture, slip in a journaling card, and there's no filler cards. Sometimes those are really, really easy. Other times they're harder, where you just have some filler stuff. You need to make a little cluster here because it's just an empty card with a pretty paper. I understand that scrapbooking can be overwhelming, and especially some of these bigger projects. And project-oriented goals can be very scary because it's like a homework assignment, and obviously our hobby should not feel like work. It should not feel like homework, and I hope it doesn't. I hope your goals are motivating you rather than, you know, just creating deadlines for you that you don't want to do, because it shouldn't feel like that. And if it does feel like that, maybe you should reevaluate your projects you're working on, and you should reevaluate your goals, because you really need to rewrite them so they don't feel that way, and that they're pushing you towards greater things rather than hindering you from wanting to do things. But I have a ton of supplies here, and like I said, it's been real trial and error for me personally, especially with this album. I've been working on it for at least 2 years now. That's right, 2 years. And it's a big undertaking. This was a 10-day trip. And if you guys know anything, you'll know that you overprint so many photos. I just printed a bunch of photos for this, and what I've decided is I can pull out some photos for picture frames for gifts for others. I don't need to put every single photo that I printed into this album. It could go somewhere else. It could go, I could just send it to someone else. If someone else is in it, I could send it to my brother. I could send it to my dad. There's lots of options, but we need to make sure that we're evaluating that when we start this project. And I think I've done pretty good at that so far. I have some photos that I left in there from earlier pages in the album that I didn't know if I should include or shouldn't include. And you'll notice during that flip through, and I know you guys didn't see everything because, you know, we're on a time crunch here to get this video not too long, but some of these layouts I definitely would have reevaluated now. I'm not going to redo them. I don't personally like redoing pages. I don't think I've ever redone a page, but I would have reevaluated some of those one-page spreads that I made with one photo. One photo spreads as 12 by 12 can be really cool, but I also find them really hindering in some cases. I could have made a lot of those inserts, or I could have combined them on a pocket page, which I'm getting really better at. I'm getting better at consolidating stories onto one spread or in a pocket page format where they each have their own little section, because I don't like the idea of all my photos having, or each photo having rather, its own page. While I do think each photo is important, and you guys know I cut up my photos all the time. I'm a person who will cut something out, you know, cut off a leg in some instances, like those running photos I did, because I want to be able to have multiple photos on a spread rather than, you know, have the full photo and have it be its own page, because I don't think that's as impactful as having all the same images from the same event on one spread. So as you approach your project-based goals and wants and needs, and really evaluating these things, and some of these will apply to your other types of goals as well, but as you're approaching your project-based goals, make sure that you're evaluating it in your mindset. I've given you a lot to think about here just in terms of project-based goals, but if you have quantity-based goals or time-based goals, a lot of those will be addressed in when we start planning out how we're going to achieve our goals in January, so get excited for that. But just for the evaluation part, most of these are project-based evaluations. Time-based, you can evaluate a little bit based on your work schedule or your kids' schedule and where those kind of things will line up in the year. And then for the quantity-based ones, that also kind of is based on time. And how you function while you're creating a layout. And again, we'll talk more about those types of goals in January when we start setting down a plan to really finish off these goals, you know, make an outline, make some milestone pieces where you've really hit the halfway point or where you've hit the third waypoint. You know, we'll start talking about that in January. But I hope you guys enjoyed joining me for another episode of 2020 Creative Reset. And now I know that I need to pick all this stuff up because today I actually have a bunch of other stuff going on. But I hope you guys had a really, really, really happy holidays. And thank you guys so much for joining me for Vlogmas. The winners of those giveaways during Vlogmas will be announced very soon. I wanted to wait until everyone saw the last day of Vlogmas, and they'll be announced over in my YouTube community tab. And you'll be able to get all that information over there once it is up. But I hope you guys enjoyed the 2020 Creative Reset for December. We are officially done with this section of it, but again, like I said, we'll be creating plans in January for getting through our goals and really hunkering down on them and having a plan in place, because I think we often miss that section of goal making, is making a plan that we can stick to. But again, I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, be sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you have any questions, leave them down below. I know a lot of people are thinking about goals right now. And some people don't think they want goals and they don't want that kind of thing. And I understand that. Goals aren't for everyone. Sometimes it's just a list like, oh, I want to try this year. You know, just little things. It doesn't have to be a specific goal. It could just be a list of things you want to do. There's all sorts of ways to look at a new year and really dive into it. So again, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you guys again very soon with a process video before the year is over. But I hope you have a great 2020 and a happy holidays. Thank you guys so much for watching. Bye!